dealt. Again, irony. And irony is definitely one of those beings. Of course, he is of also the ultimate realms as well, but he prefers to primarily be around the hybrid existence. I understand why. It's very unique too. I guess it's he loves to observe. And it is just one step below the ultimate existence. He's an ultimate existent being. So why not? I understand it, it makes sense. And what's interesting is the ultimate existence. I wouldn't say it's small, but there are only so many that actually exist there. And crossing over to the ultimate existence, you have to be of an ultimate existent being for this to occur, for this to be possible. So there's a very interesting irony behind that, but it's not entirely irony. But in a sense, it is also. That's what you call an existence is irony. Dimensions in the hybrid existence, honestly, I'm not sure how many they are. I'm not gonna say it's infinite, but it's heavily fractal. And any gain, any level up, any one more dimension up, you're quantified. So even if it is infinite, you are also acknowledged as the potential of becoming infinite. Truly infinite, actually infinite. But I honestly don't think there's infinite dimensions. Because, again, there's that level rank. Now, the ultimate existence, ultimate realms, that's different. There are infinite amount of dimensions, there are infinite amount of levels, but there are peaks. There is a ultimate peak. And only two know. And the first of all firsts knows entirely. I don't know if you'll see her. And if you do, honestly, I'm not sure what would happen to your psyche. I'm not sure. But you're gonna see something of her, some type of reflection, which is what I saw in my precognition when I saw this dimensional rift open in the sky. Like I mentioned before, can you really imagine a galaxy, a full-fledged 600 light-year plus size galaxy in metaphysical, partial, and also actual physical form of a being? 6'3", maybe 6'4". I mean, that's extreme compression. And that's not even the actuality still. But it is quite close. But see diversity in eternity. The nexus is undefined. I believe the eternal spectrum knows all, and can only know all, which many are mistaking this singular being focused around religions. Always a male, it's always a guy, it's always a god, it's never a goddess. And when goddess is mentioned, there's, I don't know why, but there's a natural reaction behind that. But that's favoritism. That's how this world was set. It was set to limit one gender far more than the other. So there's favoritism, selectivism, suggestivism, so many. But these are dead values. Again, that's the government is ultimately working with, if anything, to be anything at all, pocket-lint toothpicks. Which I think you're understanding the historicalness behind it, because that is the actuality. They are working with nothing. And I gotta say, pocket-lint toothpicks, that is nothing. That really is nothing. And the toothpicks aren't even they aren't even gonna be wood. It's gonna be plastic or something like that. You know, that spork, those plastic, you know, edible utensils, something like that. Something very just like cheap. Something for Dollar General. I mean, they're not even gonna get good quality lint. Anyway, oh man, that's the actuality. That's what they chose. There's one other thing I want to mention. Um, anyone who is experiencing polarityism to an extreme, in other words, you know what you obviously should be and obviously should do, but because you know what is so obviously wrong, that it becomes such a reoccurring theme in your mind that it's just basically bothering you to such a level to where you have little blips of lash outs, which could be something like just contradictions you don't mean to even interact with, don't even want to be a part of. This only occurs, of course, in an unnatural, circumstantial reality. It's not entirely only unnatural, but essentially that type of complexity is on a much different level. But in an unnatural world where you have so much obscurity, light workers, many beings who are trying to be eternal and trying to live, they have these contradictions as well. They're even, quote, living a contradiction, trying to live pure in an impure reality. But they're living the actuality. They're trying to live the actuality. They know that it exists, and they're going to try and live it no matter what. But they go through their battles. They will tell you that there's times they were almost, not really in a sense fighting with themselves, but there's so many angles they understand. They can't help but for some of those angles to cross, and when they cross, there's some kind of contradiction they interact with. They don't mean to. No one wants to think about an amazing paradise one moment and incidentally hit a graphic spike of a polarityism and realize nightmarish world. It's very unsettling. But this is that I wouldn't say it's expected, because it's a very extreme level. The being has to be quite extreme. But if it does happen with that person, which they understand it very well, they understand this condition very well. We have the cure. We have the cure. By the way, the condition, which is not documented at all, and if it is not documented in this type of detail, because this is a polarityism complex. The condition's called quasi. It's called this because at one point there was a mushroom. I could see the colors, but I'd have to put a picture up. There is no picture of this, of course. Ironically, probably could look through Google and find a picture that looks a lot like it. This mushroom developed a very graphic realization through polarityism. Polarityism is a very brilliant understanding, but there's an obscurity that eventually happens with polarityism. Polarityism is part of becoming an ultimate being, but an ultimate being means to not only be lucid and eternal, but to be able to take 10 seconds of thought itself and quantify the figures of understanding that could take possibly beings 20 years to understand, even in dimensions of the 98th. Again, what you're going to see, you're not going to be able to comprehend. There is no way to comprehend life. It's eternal. This is simply being realistic. Again, though, common sense, you will see how far that will get you. Common sense is very extreme. But only in extreme realizations can you understand extremes. I believe that about wraps it up. I covered a big subject which reflects on quasi. I suffer from this. But that is because I know how many awarenesses there are. I can't help but to see someone who's really aware. I see the realization that they could realize and would generally help them. It is all realization away, but